So, you had four space shuttle missions with over 680 hours in space. For those of us that will never have the experience, what was it like in space?
Well, first of all, I will say never. Okay, I was not going to be a Marine. I was not going to fly airplanes, and I
Uh-huh.
was definitely not going to be an astronaut. I was not going to space, and all three ended up being things that I now am proud to say I've had an opportunity to do. So never say never.
Right.
We've got so many commercial companies today that have the capability of getting to space that almost anyone in your audience, to include you, uh,
Hmm.
can have an opportunity to go to space. But what was it like? Unbelievable. It was everything you would imagine plus some. The two big ways I describe it are, with two human senses. One is the sense of sight, being at that vantage point outside our atmosphere, looking back down on the planet. You don't see the little ball. We're not high enough to do that. We're not like the Apollo astronauts who got far enough away that they could see Earth as a single blue dot. But we see large portions of it. On one of my flights, we were high enough. We were like 600 kilometers or 400 nautical miles above Earth. So we could see more than half of Earth at any given time. You go around Earth once every 90 minutes. So that means, every 45 minutes, the sun's up, and every 45 minutes, it's dark. So you see 16 sunrises and sunsets every normal Earth day. And it is mind boggling. I mean, the sun, you've got this black thing down there that you can hardly see that is our Earth. And after about 45 minutes of darkness, you see this light start to peep up behind it, and all of a sudden, boom, it's like the light behind me that every once in a while when I move my head and you see,
Uh-huh.
that's the way the sun comes up. I mean, if you look, like that sunrise right there, and boom, all of a sudden it's really bright. Sunset is equally mesmerizing because you go from having that big bright light, and Earth kind of rotates around, and the sun, it's not moving, but Earth is rotating, and all of a sudden the sun disappears behind Earth. And so for 45 minutes it's black dark, but then the stars become absolutely brilliant. So that's the sense of sight. And that's unlike anything you'll ever see down here on the planet. We try to take pictures of it with cameras, but the cameras just don't do it justice. The other
Mhm.
thing is the sense of feel. And that is very dynamic. From the time you're laying on your back on a launch pad, just laying there, waiting for hours to launch. And when it's time to go, you can hear the countdown in your headset. And when they get to zero, all of a sudden things get really exciting because the engines ignite and boom, 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 vehicle shakes and stuff. In the case of the space shuttle, it literally kind of did something we call the twang, because it was attached by the bottom of the two solid rocket boosters to the launch pad by 8 bolts. That was the only thing that held up this 4 million pound stack. And so it kind of tilted over a little bit, and it got caught by the bolts and then popped back. And it was called the twang. So it took about 7 seconds or so to do this and that. And when you came back, the computers had checked everything out, all the thousands of systems on board, and determined, okay, it's okay to go today. And they sent a signal to the two solid rocket boosters, and then all hell breaks loose, because you feel and hear this explosion of the two solid rocket boosters, and boom, the vehicle starts to shake, and you can feel yourself sink back in your seat ever so slightly as you lift off. And the vehicle rolls around, goes upside down as you make your way into space. It takes 8.5 minutes to get to space, and that's it. So you go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in 8.5 minutes. At the end of that 8.5 minutes, you've gotten rid of the solid rocket boosters that help push you out of the atmosphere. The main engines on the shuttle turn off. If you're on a SpaceX Crew Dragon nowadays, it's got one stick, so it's got nine engines on it, and in 8.5 minutes, those 8 engines have done their job, and they shut down sequentially. And when that happens, you immediately begin to float, because you don't have the thrust of the engines pushing you anymore, and all of a sudden gravity's overcome because you're going so fast, and you've got this force called centrifugal force that's competing with gravity, trying to pull you away from Earth's gravity, and you're in the middle, and so you float. And that's this incredible sensation of weightlessness that you experience for the rest of the time that you're in space.